give an example of the fix and flip method. Welcome back to In the Know. I am Tisha Pitts.
I am Tony Pitts.
And we have a amazing question today. Today, somebody asked you, Tony, to give an example of the fix and flip method.
So we get a lot of calls and questions about investing in real estate. There's many different strategies that one can employ. Today, we're going to talk about one of those strategies. Some people call it the fix and flip. Some investors don't like that term. It's simply a buy and sell strategy. You're going to buy the property at a certain price point. You're going to add value to that property, and then you're going to sell it later on down the line for a profit. I'm pretty much going to give you all this game for free, step by step, detail by detail. We're going to go through the math, and we're also going to go through some of the details. I don't want to make the video too long. If you want to know more, then you will click the link and get the free ebook. The most important number you need to know if you're doing residential real estate investing, especially if you're starting out and you're a beginner, the most important number you need to know is 65. Now, why do you need to know the number 65? If you're taking notes, 65% is going to be very, very important. You're going to learn some terms in this video as well. ARV. For those who don't know what that means, it stands for after renovation value. You're starting out and you're saying to yourself, oh, I want to jump into real estate, and I see this house, it's abandoned, it's whatever, and I want to see if it's a good deal or not. So the first number you need to know is the ARV. You need to know what that property is worth at its fully renovated value, which means new kitchen, new bath, new windows, new roof. What is it selling for? Not what a dated house or old house or an abandoned house is selling for, but what are the properties going for at the top of the market? Similar square foot, similar bedroom number, whether it's 3 or 4 or 2, similar amount of bathrooms. So you want to know exactly what that number is.
Now, what do they call that when you are looking for that ARV?
The way that you come up with that number is you won't have the tools, but you can go to a realtor or a real estate agent. We use what's called an MLS, a multiple listing service system, and what it does is it pulls what's called comps. That's the short term, but it stands for a comparable property. All right. So it's a comparable market analysis, and that will give you the exact number of what the market says it's worth. And the market says it's worth this number not based on what the houses are on the market for sale. It's for what the houses have sold for. That number is very important. And we'll do another video just on comps and some of these terms. Before this, we're going to try to run through what a fix and flip or buy and sell would actually look like. So let's say you saw a house, it's for sale for a certain number. That number is no concern of yours. It doesn't matter if they're selling it high or low. That's not of importance. What's important is what is the after repair value. Now, for this illustration, we're driving through Philly. Let's say we're in Mount Airy or we're in Overbrook, and we know through comps, because you had somebody run reports where you ran them yourself, or 10 houses in that neighborhood and they all sold for $300,000, that's going to be your comp. Let's start off, our first number is $300K. That's your ARV. That's what this property can sell for in its max value. Here's where the number 65 comes in, 65%. Now let's take 65% of the ARV. 195,000. So you can get your calculator, you can double check me. But 65% of 300,000 is 195,000. This number is important because this is your max number that you can invest into this property. That's your max number. Now, what's the next important number to this equation? If you're able to get access to the property and you walk through it yourself or a contractor, you want to come up with the budget of what it's going to cost to get this house in its current condition to similar condition of those houses that sold for $300,000. All right, so if it had open concept, granite countertops, quartz, stainless steel appliances, finished basement, 2.5 bath, like if it has all these things, a deck in the back, you need to make sure your property is comparable to that $300,000 property. All right, now 65%. Now, what does that mean? 195. So let's say you did your walkthrough with your contractor and he says, hey, we can get everything done exactly the way you like it, but it's going to cost $100,000. So that is your renovation cost. That's your budget, $100,000. When you're done, it's worth $300,000. You know you have 65% to play with, or that's your budget. You also know that to fix this house the way you need it, you need $100,000 cash, right? Now, you are now going to subtract $100,000 from your $195,000 budget. What does that leave left? $95,000. $95,000 is the max that you can purchase this property for. That's the most you can offer this particular seller. Why? Because you only have $195,000. That's your budget. And you've already used $100,000 to get the property renovated. So what's left is $95,000. Tony, can I offer more? You can offer more than $95,000 if you lower your $100,000 budget. So if you find a way to lower your budget, then you'll have more money to make an offer on. Okay? So let's say the owner says, great, $95,000 is exactly what I was looking for. You're all in at $195,000, 65% of the ARV. You renovate the property, it's beautiful, and now you're ready to stick a fork in it and put the sell sign up. And it just so happened you bought the property 6 months ago, the ARVs was $300,000, and guess what? They're still worth $300,000. Don't always work that way. It could be low, it could be higher, it could be somewhere in between.
Now wait, here's a question.
Sure.
When you talk about 6 months later, is it practical to rerun reports? Well, how does that work? Or who determines that the property that I just fixed up and based on 6 months ago, there were ARVs at $300K. Who puts the stamp of approval? Like, okay, now this property is comparable. The market is still high at $300. Who's giving me the okay that my property can now be put up for sale and possibly sell for that number?
It's a double-edged kind of question. So in reality, the market, the customers tell you what this property is worth. Because if enough properties sold within a certain point mileage away in similar size and characteristics and features, what that means is the people who are actually buying and selling. So if 3 or 4 people bought a similar property to yours within the last 30 to 90 days at $300,000, then the market says it's worth $300,000. How you validate that is you have to get an appraisal. Now, an appraisal is an opinion of value. A lot of people think it appraised at this, it's still an opinion of a value. You might have 5 appraisers come in, which you would never do, and they come up with 5 different numbers because it's their opinion of the value. But how they come up with this opinion is based off market research. So they'll pull reports on data to see how many properties sold similar square foot size features within a certain radius of your property. And then they say, based on these statistics, your property is still worth $300,000.
Okay. So in another video, we'll get into things that could, this diagram we're using, but for the sake of this video, everything's perfect. We're 6 months out. The sell is up. We're 300K.
You go to the closing table. You know you all in for 195. So you're going to take that away. And now you have, what's that, 105. That's your gross profit. So you're like, woo, Tony, I made 100 racks. Well, that's not exact, right?
Okay.
So that's your gross, not your net. Out of this 105,000, remember, there are costs along the way, right? So when you purchased this property, there were closing costs. There was money that you spent outside of the purchase and outside of your renovation. Because when you go to closing, you have closing costs, real estate transfer tax. You had to pay for that appraisal I talked about, points, and all these sorts of things that come up. So let's just say 10 grand was on your closing costs when you made the purchase. So let's take that away. Then you have holding costs, right? So you held the property for 6 months, but guess what? You had 6 months worth of electricity, 6 months worth of water, 6 months worth of taxes, 6 months worth of property insurance, and 6 months worth of mortgage payments on the loan that you got to buy it.
Because this is still your house, so you have to pay those costs, right?
Yeah.
And you need to make sure you're prepared for it.
So that's about, let's just say, another 10 grand in holding costs.
Don't forget the holding costs.
Now you're like, okay, Tom, we're in the clear now. Not so fast. Because guess what? You just did what? Put the house back on the market. So now you have more closing costs. You got to pay the agent. They're 6% for selling it and sticking that beautiful sign in the lawn. You got the transfer taxes. So you got all those fees again.
Don't forget that. That's one that some folks miss.
Now, these aren't going to be exact. So you're going to have miscellaneous types of expenses, right? Let's say you had lawn care. You wanted to have a good curb appeal right before you put it on the market. You had a cleaning crew come in and clean everything so it's nice and beautiful. A photographer for your sale pictures. You paid somebody to stage the property for you so it'll sell quickly. You did open houses, food, balloons, etc. So miscellaneous, maybe another $5,000, right? You subtract all of that, it leaves you with about $70,000 as your net. So now you got $70K and you like, oh, we rolling, but don't forget Uncle Sam. Don't forget your tax.
He lurking, he like this. What you selling?
So you will have a capital gains tax.
Okay.
And there is a way to defer that tax. It's called a 1031 exchange, which we'll get into that in a different video. We'll dive into the meat and bones of that. You will hear the catchphrase, oh, just get a 1031 exchange, just get a 1031 exchange. And the short version of that is good old Uncle Sam allows you to defer these taxes if you put it into another property within a certain amount of period. Then you won't have to pay a capital gains tax at that time. Now let me dive into some of the pieces of the fix and flip. One of the things that you have to be keen about is you might be saying, okay, Tony, where I'm getting the money, I don't have $195,000 just go slam out there into the street, right? So you will need some cash, right? I would suggest between 30 on the low and 50 on the high. And you will leverage your properties typically you will use what's called hard money, which is private money. There's private equity funds that pool their money into a lending institution and they lend it out to investors like you and me. Now, the reason that's important is because traditional banks, conventional banks and credit unions do not lend to folk like us, investors. So
we're a risk.
We're a high risk, so you have to go to alternative forms of financing. We'll dive into some of those different strategies, creative financing, using business credit cards and lines of credit and things like that to help you get your funding. Oh. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this video on real estate investing, click the link below. Get our free ebook, a 12-step guide to real estate investing, what every school should be teaching. Click the link below, enjoy your free ebook. I'm going to get back to work. Okay, Tony, I have my cash. I'm ready. What does this look like from a cash layout perspective? So typically a hard money lender or private lender, depending on your experience level, is going to want somewhere between 15 and maybe 20 to 30% down. So let's play in the middle and say 20% down. So you offered 95. So let's say, just for round numbers sake, the lender asked you to put 20K out. Boom, that should be 20K down, right? Then you needed another 10 for your closing costs. So that's $30,000. That's cash out of your pocket. Now, how does the construction part? Well, where am I getting $100,000 to renovate this property?
Right.
Good news, hard money lenders traditionally will lend up to 100% on your construction, right? So they'll give you the 100. So you like, well, we Gucci, right? We gravy. They don't just hand you a check for $100,000. Here's the caveat. You get your money in what's called draws.
What are draws?
So you might say, right, what are draws? So draws are, your budget was $100,000, right? And let's say your total budget is $100,000 and you have 5 draws for $20,000 each. That equals $100,000. Now what the draws mean is your construction project is going to be done in phases. First $20,000 takes care of demo, permit, architectural plans, all those sorts of things. Then your second $20,000 is for your roughs.
Okay, roughing it. Rough. What
the heck
are
is a
rough?
So your rough, for those who are construction, I don't want to say illiterate, but you don't know that much about it.
Right.
A rough is when the electrician runs the wire. Just the wires only, no switches, no lights, no fixtures, no outlets, none of that. Just the wire where it needs to go. Same thing with plumbing. Run it to your bathroom, your kitchen, to your laundry, but it won't have the faucets and the sinks and the toilets. Your HVAC, that's where they run the ductwork and all your vents and all that, but it won't have the registers on top. There won't be a unit out back. There won't be a condenser in the yard.
So essentially, the bones, the
internal,
bone. Like the insides, the
Inside.
guts.
That's your rough. Then maybe it's another 20 for your finish, right? Now the toilet is on, the sinks are on, your
fixtures.
appliances is in, whatever the fixtures and all those things. The unit is in, so that's your finish. And then the end, you're putting your kitchens together, you're painting, you're making everything beautiful, your floors or whatever. So your construction budget is broken into draws. Why is that important, Tony? The reason it's important is because they're giving you $100,000. However, you need to have the first draw money at least out of pocket. So you need to have that 20 cash. So now you had 20 for your down payment, 10 for your closing, and now you need another 20 to get the project. So now you need 50K.
Uh-oh.
But now you good. You put your first 20 down, and then you have what's called a draw inspection. So that lender's going to come out and say, oh, check your wiring, or the plumbing's good, or your HVAC, oh, it's your permits, it's in the window, or here's your plans. Here's your 20 back. Woo! So now you got your 20 back. Don't go in your pocket. It's going to go right back out for the next set of work. So you go through that process, and at the very end, the lender reimburses you your 20 grand. Now it's back in your pocket. You gotta worry about that.
Right, but you gotta have it in order to get started.
But you gotta have it. So you got your startup money, you got your renovation money. So the good thing is, at the end, when you sold it, that out of that 195, that 20 and 20 was yours, right? You got your 20 down payment was in there. And out of this 100, you got your 20 back on that. So you made whole your 40. You got that back in your pocket. You only spent 10 on your closing costs. And you got the profit you got the gross, and then you got the net profit at the end. And then you did your 1031 exchange, and then you got to your next property. So this is the quick version of the fix and flip, or the buy and sell.
If you guys have any questions in regards to this diagram, or need to have us go slower, just please send that information in the comments. We are more than happy to walk you through this. You can contact us for a consultation. You can hire us to do that renovation. But outside of that, Tony Pitts, we don't have
just remember,
anything else.
This whole diagram is in our free ebook. So subscribe, click the link, ring the bell, get the free ebook. This is here for you, as well as step-by-step, 12-step guide to your first flip.
And if there's, again, any particular questions like, why 65%? Can I do this without that 20 to 50K?
I'm going to answer that now.
Well, okay.
So why 65%? So the reason it's 65% is because you need to leverage with hard money or private money. That's the max they're going to give you, is 65%. So when you present a deal to them, you better make sure your renovation and your purchase price combined does not exceed 65%. So that's one reason. The second reason it's important, 65% is pertinent. And we'll get into this on our next video when I talk about the BRRRR strategy for people who want to buy and keep their properties and build a portfolio and collect rent. 65 is important because when you get to the end of the renovation part, you're going to do what's called a cash out refinance. And when you do a cash out refinance, the most that they're going to give you is 75%. So you need cushion between how much you're into the property for and how much you're going to exit the property for. They're only going to give you 75%. So you got that much room. And remember, you're going to have other costs outside of that 195 that you need to make sure that you get back. So you need to have that 10% cushion. Not only that, that hard money lender wants to know that your numbers work because they want all their money at the end. So here's another caveat that I skipped about hard money. You pay interest-only payments every month. For those who are regular homeowners, you know when you get your statement, some of your money went toward the principal, and you see how you're paying your property down, and then some went to interest. Well, on these types of loans, it's all interest. Every payment you make, your principal stays the same. I don't care if it took you 3 months, a year, 10 years, you're never paying it off because it's only going to interest. That hard money lender wants that money back so they can lend it out to you either again or to someone else. And they want to make sure that you have an exit. Can they pay me back my money through a refinance where I get paid in full?
Okay, Tony, that was a lot of information and we don't want to make this video too long. So again, if you guys have any external questions about this diagram or anything you've heard Tony talk about, please leave those comments in below. And like, subscribe so we can continue to bring you this great information in regards to investing.
And if you like this video on fix and flip, hang around for the next video where I'm going to get into the buy and hold, or some like to call it the BRRRR method. And remember, your number one investment should be you.
See you guys next time.
If you like this video on real estate investing, the fight is fixed, then check out the next video. Real estate investing, BRRRR, but it's hot outside.